Hi, this is Rick Frederick with a review of Otgaar, Candel, Merckelbach, Wade, 2009 paper called Abducted by a UFO, Prevalence Information About Children's False Memories for an Implausible Event. What is the takeaway from this article is that children can easily develop false memories of a highly implausible event, just not a plausible one. And the ages of these children were somewhere between 7 and 12 years old. So not preschoolers, but children of regular ages can, through various interviewing techniques, develop false memories with high confidence. So they describe the process in which you can develop false memories in which an event has to be considered plausible, which is what they evaluated in the present study. Event has to be considered as something that genuinely happened, and then the images and thoughts that you have about the event have to be mistaken as memory details and not just thoughts and images. So they were unsure if prevalence information influences the development of false memories. And they predicted that children who heard false prevalence information would be more likely to report false memories than children without false prevalence information. So they looked at 91 school children, 7 to 8 years old, 11 to 12 years old, and they had a true narrative to evaluate, and then they developed two false scenarios. One plausible, that they had choked on candy, and another one that they had been abducted by a UFO. They were interviewed about the true scenario and one false scenario, and they were asked to report everything they could about both events. In the prevalence condition, they read a newspaper article about, say, UFO abductions in the area where they lived. So the style of interviewing was guided imagery and context reinstatement. What they did is they told the children that they understood from their parents that certain things had happened to them, and then they actually, presented them with, for instance, in the UFO context, a newspaper. It looked very much like a newspaper talking about UFO sightings during the time in question. And all of these instances were, when you were 4 years old, your mother told me you went to school on your first day and here's what happened. Your mother told me that you were abducted by a UFO, so forth. What is true is that the children believed the stories. Many of them did. And so here's the percentages of children who develop false memories at interview 1 and 2. And I forget what the separation in time here was between the interviews, but you can take a look at the article. And when you work to develop a belief that this is possible, something that is implausible, the rates are much higher than when there's no prevalence information presented, like a newspaper article saying there were UFOs. So you can see that the low prevalence event, the UFO, is not very high unless you change it by presenting information that would make it seem to be prevalent. So when there's low prevalence, they did not believe at a higher rate, but still 20 to 40% of the children in interview 1, 7 to 8 years old, develop false memories just by the interview strategy. So that's pretty alarming. Here's a different view just by looking at ages. So overall, the older the child, the less likely they were to develop a false memory. The younger children were more susceptible to creating the false memories, regardless of condition, but when it was much more believable, they had a higher rate of doing so. Interesting article. It's hard to imagine that you could get children to believe that they were abducted by UFOs. But the authors do note that the debrief was very difficult. Once the children had developed the beliefs that they had been abducted by UFOs or had choked on candy, it was very, very difficult to get them to disbelieve it, and required some thorough work. So the intensity of belief was quite impressive. Thank you very much.